With gynecologists, what happens, they get very famous and then you start feeling very proud that, oh, the whole world is around you. Corporatization is really eating us. The profit that I was making was not much despite doing 40 cycles.
तो आइए आज इसी विषय पर हम चर्चा करते हैं डॉक्टर आशा बख्शी जी से।
नमस्कार, मैं हूँ डॉक्टर आशा बख्शी।
How can they create legacy in today's competitive world?
I say go after Saraswati, Lakshmi will come behind.
They needed the mother, they needed a head of the department.
And the children who were doctors' children, they were saying, oh, we are nepots, no? I'm sure your mom never sat with you for doing the homework or making those fancy projects, but I can't sit and do homework with you.
Something that was valuable from the UK system that you thought should be incorporated in your practice.
One thing that I learned from UK.
I'm so happy to be on the other side of this chair and all excited to listen to your story here, ma'am. So, ma'am, my very first thing is that when it comes to legacy, how did that idea creep into your mind? Whether it was right from the time you started the practice and Dhaval and Hina came into this world, or it came into your mind once both of them entered their MBBS and you thought now probably they're getting into the footsteps, so let me take it ahead.
First of all, thank you, Garima. You're so beautiful and fresh that I feel energized. So, and talking about legacy, I think first of all, what we achieve is most important. And what happened is I learned from the doyens of gynecologists like Dr. Sadhna Desai. I was her assistant. I've been with Dr. Soonawala, and even during our postgraduate days, I was fan of Dr. Bhagwat, Dr. Kumud Bhagwat, and she was a highly skilled surgeon. So through my journey, I learned my basic skills from a plastic surgeon during my internship. Then Dr. Prakash Chajlani, then came Dr. Kumud Bhagwat, then Dr. Sadhna Desai, then my consultants in England, especially Mr. Edward Checkstead. And then when I came back to India, I had my husband who is a very good surgeon. So all those skills I picked up. And not only the skills, I learned what is the ethics and how they deal with the patient and how they delegate. It's not that everything you have to do. You have to be very well organized and learn to delegate and have that attitude that someone has taught me, so I should teach others, and in that financial terms should not come into the way. So that's how I learned. I like to work with the protocols. Then I like to give leaflets to the patients, give very good patient information. So all those things I learned, and at the same time, of course, I earned also. So what people say that people go after Lakshmi, I say go after Saraswati, Lakshmi will come behind. So that I did, and of course I did earn. So all those things when I learned from people, then it's my duty to return it back to society. And it's not only my children. See, I have, since the day I started, I learned this formula from Madam Desai that you should have one assistant for everything. So I had one assistant for gynecology and laparoscopy, one assistant for my obstetric work, and one assistant for my infertility work. So this is how I compartmentalized, and this is how I could do a big practice. And all these girls, they came with fresh faces, lots of energy. They learned, lots of them did MRCOG also because I did my MRCOG, so that was one thing. And then they are practicing in various parts of the India and also abroad, and they are very successful. And whenever I learn that this girl is doing very well, I feel very happy. So with that, naturally, this I had been doing since long time. And then my children grew. So when my children grew, they had to learn the same way the other gynecologists, other girls learned. So my daughter Hina, she used to sit with me and doing histories, because sometimes there won't be anybody. So she would do the histories. Dhaval, he learned everything slowly. So this is how I taught them. It's not that I handed over everything.
Wow, ma'am. I think, ma'am, your basic nature in itself, that love for that patient care, that zest that you have to give your best to each and every patient. I think the kids must have grown up seeing you practice that. And it must have been a mutual journey of you and Dhaval and Hina, where you were doing
now
and they were
Sonam
seeing.
also,
Yeah, and now
my
Sonam as
daughter-in-law.
well. So, ma'am, I mean, you were in UK and then you came to India and then you had kids, you had a practice. So, what did you find was something that was valuable from the UK system that you thought should be incorporated in your practice and which Dhaval, Sonam, Hina, and obviously a lot of your students could also carry forward that?
One thing that I learned from UK is empathy. You should really talk to the patient as if that patient is your own, one thing. Another thing is be very honest. A patient may be having cancer. So here we try to hide, but there they would sit with the patient, make a good environment, talk to the patient and slowly break the news that yes. So I feel it's very important to be honest with the patient, tell them what's going on, explain to them, take them in confidence. And another thing is the system is such that helps you how to deal with complications, how to involve at every step, whom to involve, and your communication skills. So those things I really learned. So whenever there is a difficulty, I know I have to involve this surgeon, I have to involve this physician, and that time I don't bother about economics. Whatever I have to pay, my patient has to get better. If my patient, even if she has tachycardia, I can't rest. I have to see to it that she is normal, and I will be after that patient for next 24 hours till she is settled. I won't be settled myself. So those are small things you pick up day by day in your practice. And when you practice, your juniors, and not only the juniors, the hospital where I work, that is Motherhood Hospital, and there I have my other colleagues also, and I have set up all the obstetrics and everything. And the way things are set up, that the normal delivery rate of the hospital has gone up. Wow. Because all the protocols are there, and people will come and ask, what does Asha Bakshi do? Okay, so you do that. So I feel, though directly I am not teaching anybody, but indirectly, because of the protocols, because of the system, because of the team, things are getting for the whole city. So that gives me pride.
And ma'am, I think it's not about just creating system. People have actually seen you working, so if you have somebody, a mentor like you, who's putting in so much of energy, it automatically comes as an enthusiastic zest for the young budding doctors. What is that one thing you have ensured that, all the 3 kids of yours just did not take the name of Dr. Asha Bakshi, but they actually truly did the justice to your name?
Yes.
So,
actually, yesterday I heard that word, and the children who were doctors' children, they were saying, oh, we are nepots, no? So I understand. But the thing is, these children, they learn right from the beginning. They are like Abhimanyus, and they are learning and they are watching their parents what is being done. And for them, it is very, very difficult to prove themselves and go beyond what their parents are. Some people say ki below the banyan tree, nothing grows. So it's really to come out of that shadow, it's not easy. So they do it, they have to work, they have got lots of pressure, and we are also so cautious. We don't want them to make any mistakes. So we see to it that only when they are confident enough and we have supervised them, then only we leave them. And that's how the complication rate, the mistakes, they go down. So it's not that, for them the life is very tough, because everyone is judging them, watching them, and they are also sometimes under a lot of stress.
So ma'am, this reminds me of my own journey. So it was too overwhelming for me at that point of time when I had to take that decision of where to do my MBBS, because at one side there was a burden that, doing an MBBS in the same medical college where mom is there is like standing up to her expectations, or anything I would achieve would be named after her. So, but Dhaval took it the other way. I came to Mumbai and settled away. And Dhaval came back and he started practice with you. So do you remember his initial days? Was it something too overwhelming? He used to feel a lot of pressure to match up to the expectations of the patients. You know, when there are times when patients would say, no, we want to meet Dr. Asha Bakshi, and we don't want to meet you. Or was it like just a cakewalk, doors opening for him, ready to sit in a big cabin and ready to take a practice?
Yes.
So how was his journey, and how did you help him navigating that entire thing?
This is really true. Sometimes, because what happened is, Dhaval went away and came back, and Sonam, because they got married earlier, so Sonam was with me, sitting besides me. So slowly Sonam picked up everything, and she started talking and mixing to the with the patient. So for her it was easy. And Dhaval, after he came well trained and all, and then he came, and then patients wouldn't. One thing is, he's a male gynecologist. Second thing is, they had not seen him for a long time. So they didn't initially have that much confidence. But what I used to say that first see me, I would write down everything, and I would say that, see, technology wise, he is very updated. So you go and meet him. So I want you to meet him before he does the surgery, and I'm going to be there during surgery. So slowly, patients started having a lot of confidence, and once they went to him, they never returned back to me. So then I knew that, yes, this is the time. So slowly I started diverting, and I stopped going, because I knew that the complication rate is not much, and I had confidence. But this took almost 4-5 years. It's not just journey of one day. And still I'm there. I keep watching him, and if there is anything, I will really tell both of them that don't do like this, do like this. And they are good kids, they listen to me. Right. Now for Hina, it was the other way round. What happened is, she, in the beginning, till MBBS, she was with us. Then she went to Belgaum, did her ENT. Then she went to, I think, Trichy, she did her fellowship there. Then she went to Pune, then she went to Germany and returned back. So, and then she was with her. But then she had watched me right from the beginning, how I do. So whenever my patients, they go to her by chance, and because she is ENT specialist, so they say that you talk exactly like your mom. So in the earlier days, what you are saying, she was with me, but afterwards she. So, but I think you people are quite sensible, and you do understand, and we never forced. I'm sure your mom never forced you, and I never forced my children to become doctor. But sometimes it gives me a pride that probably I did justice to them as well, because they don't get upset with me that my mom was a doctor and she didn't look after. Sometimes I do have guilt feeling, and they tell me, Mom, stop having that guilt feeling. You don't have to feel guilty. You have done the best. So that really gives you happiness, because as a gynecologist, I'm sure your mom never sat with you for doing the homework or making those fancy projects. I never did all those things. I said that no one did for me in the childhood, you do it. I've given you a good school, and I make sure that everything is there, but I can't sit and do homework with you.
So, ma'am, I can actually resonate with it. I was a child, exactly the same thing happened. My mom was always busy with her practice, and as a child, I never felt that, why is she not sitting with me? But now when I am a gynec mom, I have landed up with that mom guilt that I am not sitting with my son. And that's when mama also keeps reminding me that it's okay, you were a child like that, and your child is also growing. So I think with Hina also, she picked up certain very valuable things of being an excellent clinician right from the time when she was entering into this field.
Yeah.
And it's a very raw time, when even before we are exposed to the outside world, I think parents are our biggest teachers.
Yes,
and if you
yes.
learn at that time, you carry those values for long. So then, ma'am, I think Sonam started with you earlier than Dhaval. And if you remember any particular case or story, because you were also growing in the organizations, you had a lot of travel, and then the hospital had to be looked back. So when was the time when you thought, now Sonam is independent, I can travel and I can pursue some organizational roles, and Sonam is ready to take the role of the lead gynec in my absence? Any particular case, and how were you there supporting her?
See, what happened is, I had another consultant, Dr. Manila.
Okay.
So initially, when Sonam came, Dr. Manila and Sonam were there. And slowly, because Manila had her practice, she is again a very famous consultant in Indore.
Okay.
So slowly she stopped coming and Sonam started taking over. And I saw that Sonam was conducting the labors and patients had full praises of her, and even post-operative care and everything. So slowly, I think almost after 2.5 years, I started giving her simple cases. And then now, since I think last 5 years, she's independently working and doing very well. And I can say that she's the page 3 gynecologist of Indore. Everyone wants Sonam. She's very beautiful and at the same time very
Yeah.
well trained, also well behaved, also very soft.
Yeah. So, but then, ma'am, like 3 kids, one side, you started, especially the IVF practice, in the era when there was so much of concern, fear in the society. There was so much of skepticism about the whole field. And there was this whole journey of building up the trust in the community amongst the peers. And then today, this generation, and I also belong to that, we faced with a lot of corporatization, then there's a lot of competition, everything is about social media. So at home, away from the office, over just a dining table, are there any heated arguments over a patient treatment or running the hospital in a particular protocol, or it has always been a pally picture?
See, usually with Sonam, I don't have any arguments. The arguments that I have
Dhaval.
are with Dhaval, because he would say, in Manipal, we used to do this. In Italy, I saw this and all that. So yes, sometimes I do have, but, and corporatization is really eating us. And I also realized, because I was running my own center,
Yeah.
and then I realized that the profit that I was making was not much, despite doing 40 cycles, because you're not able to do the good administration and avoid pilferages around.
Yeah.
So that was the problem. But then that's the reason when we built up this big hospital, we went with motherhood people. And I cannot do any marketing. I'm very bad at that. I don't have any, in all those years, I didn't have any PRO also. So that was the type of practice I was doing. So Dhaval said that it's high time, mom, that we go into corporate, so at least some PRO ship and some marketing will be done. But I'm not a person who would solicit myself and do anything. So, but you have to go with the times, and it seems the time is of corporates.
Yeah, ma'am, and I think, ma'am, that was a golden era when it was all about word of mouth practice.
Yes.
I don't see any of our mentors actually going on to a digital media or, you know, showcasing their core values, their work profile. But unfortunately with us, it's now become more of I would say shopping around the medical hospitals, and you don't know what patients really want. They actually want a 5-star facility. So you started a hospital, Sir was there, then motherhood came into picture, and apart from building a legacy just in giving a patient care, it was also about creating a legacy in administrative work. And when I often have conversations with Dhaval, I see it's a very insightful conversation. I see, when coming from the same age, but the amount of experience he has in those administrative skills. So who was the person? It was you, it was Sir, who passed on those administrative skills and actually created a legacy to create an institute and not just the name.
This is my husband, Dr. Anil Bakshi, because he is very good at organizing the things, a very big disciplinarian, and he goes into depth of everything. And he has lot of interests. He is a very good, you can say, if you talk to him about agriculture, he is very good in that. He is very good in solar energy, all properties, shares. At the same time, how the things should go properly. He believes a lot, even in a little bit. He believes in digital marketing. He says, you people don't do it, you should do it. So he has a very forward thinking, foresighted person he is. So all those things actually have come from my husband. I am simply a good professional person who does her work and looks after the family. Rest of the things, sports, all those things, they come from him. And,
ma'am,
and even his surgical skills, those come from him.
But I must truly appreciate that, because a cycle runs on two wheels. You need to have a balance. And there's a perfect balance of this couple. One who is so passionate about the branch, about ensuring the patient care first before anything else. And then there is another person who, apart from his own surgical skills, is also somebody who goes with the flow of the advances in the media. And I think the kids must have had a perfect blend of experiences coming from their parents. So now I have
And another thing I would like to tell to the youngsters, that the couple as a whole should enjoy the success of each other. So if sometimes I am getting bit back-footed, then my husband will say, no, go ahead, do this, it's nice. And every time he supported, and when he wants to go for his things, I support. So I think we have to support as a couple. Sometimes you may have conflicts, you may have clashes, but very important to trust each other, support each other, and then the journey, then you see it will multiply, things will multiply.
Truly said that, ma'am. These are actually the words of wisdom that, you know, I want every young person, not only somebody who's coming in the field of medicine, but anyone who is going to start a personal life and a professional life. That's what the whole podcast is about.
And especially with gynecologists, what happens, they get very famous, because wherever you go, people come and they say, oh, this baby. And then you start feeling very proud that, oh, the whole world is around you. But the whole world is around the person who is with you, who is standing with you all the time, listening to your sad stories. When in the night, when the bell rings, when the phone rings, he also gets disturbed. His sleep also gets disturbed. He has looked after the children. So don't think that it is your success. It is our success.
Very true, ma'am. I think that's a very, very important message, especially with the rising marital conflicts. But something, yes, I think that's also part of creating a legacy, because until and unless you have solid roots as a couple, I don't think you'll be able to give a justice to your family. The legacy starts from home and then it extends to the professional world. So, ma'am, I have always known you as somebody extremely gentle, caring. And I'm so sure, like, as a mother, it is an autopilot mode to be protective about your kids. And especially with this world around, which is literally on your toes to pick up a pinpoint onto where you have gone wrong. But at the same time, you have also been the mentor to these three people. So how did you balance, you know, that protective mom versus a mentorship? Or do you remember any story when any one of them was going a little wrong in their decision making, and you had to make that balance of both? They needed the mother, they needed a head of the department.
No, if there is a complication, then I'm with them. But basically, at that time also, I'll try to audit everything, that what happened, why this happened, and this should not happen again. Because medicine is something like airlines. In airlines, you have a rule that there should be no complication. So this is how, when you practice and when you do everything, you make sure that your protocols are right and your team is doing the things in a proper way, and there shouldn't be any risk. So even though if they make a mistake, it doesn't mean that I'm going to pamper them. First of all, I'll say why this happened. But then, of course, I will support them as a parent. But initially, I will question that why this happened and this should not happen again. So you have to be strict. At the same time, you have to be, because many a times, I remember when I did my first perforation in England during DNC. And I was so guilty. I went and told to my senior registrar, Joe, I've made a big mistake. I've done perforation. I'm feeling so upset. So she said, Esha, these things happen. And if you have never done perforation, that means you have not worked enough. So don't worry, it will be all right. Is the patient okay? I said, yes, patient is okay. Okay, observe her for 24 hours and let her go home tomorrow. So yes, I do understand the complications can occur, but at the same time, I'll question why it occurred.
Yeah, ma'am, I think until and unless we don't make mistakes, I don't see we will be ever growing.
But we should not think that we can make mistakes.
Yes.
Make sure that your checklist is like airlines and there should be no mistake. Not a single mistake is tolerable in medicine.
Very
so
true.
This is how we should go ahead. And then if it happens, yes, we have to correct it, and sometimes, most of the times, it is not your mistake. The anatomy of the patient is that way. There may be physiological changes, pathological. So those things are there. So many a times you cannot be blamed, but at least do the things with proper checklist.
Very true. So, creating the systems, setting the systems is, I think, very, very important in our field because we are dealing eventually with the human lives.
Yeah.
And again, as I say, that mentorship is extremely, extremely important for being a good clinician at work. So this also tells me, like, now we have talked about so many people being mentored by you. Now moving ahead outside of the kids, I'm very sure some of your students must have carried your values even more stronger than your kids. So if you had to broadly define creating a legacy, what do you think is more important? Is it a professional mentorship or is it a family legacy? In your clinical practice, in your experience, for you, what has really mattered out of these two?
Both have mattered. Basically, I would like my juniors also to flourish and do well and practice with values. And at the same time, I want my children also to grow well, so that they don't say, oh, you were just looking after your juniors, but you never bothered about us. So I think it is a good balance, and we have to mentor both.
Hats off to you, ma'am. I need to take personal tuitions from you to keep that balance
Nothing like that.
with the
Nothing
child
like
and
that.
with the work.
Yeah, nothing like that. But you have to look after your children, yes. But at the same time, you have your duty towards your juniors also. So.
Very true. So, ma'am, now in today's world, with things being completely changed, everyone is watching you. Everything is there on the social media. Today, if you had to start your career and you were set that I have to establish myself in my career, I have to create a legacy, what would have been your roadmap, or what is that some key pointers that you would want to tell this generation who don't have any family backup in that particular field, who do not have any hierarchy in that field, that how can they create legacy in today's competitive world?
I think it's very important to be sincere, have a good mentor. And it's not just learning, sitting with the books and studying. It's you observe how this person works. So a good training is very, very important. So always select a good mentor. And if the training is good and you are sincere, then you are definitely, and when you go out in practice, the patients whom you see, do see them properly and have a good setup, having a good office, a good secretary, a good assistant. All these things should start from the beginning. It's not that you feel that, no, I don't want to spend. I think initially you have to spend, have a good practice, and you can be active in newspapers, media, write good articles, give good blogs and all those things. And if you give good patient information and all, slowly people will recognize, and try to, in your family, amongst your friends, try to help them out, and they will also bring patients to you. So it's not that difficult. If you are sincere, if you are hardworking, I don't see why your practice will not flourish. It will flourish.
Ma'am, very rightly said, but what I find a problem with this generation, like our generation compared to when you all were practicing, I remember mom always telling me, a doctor's life starts at 40 and then you start enjoying.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of patience there to first have a rigorous training under a mentor,
Yeah.
then starting the practice, then establishing your practice. But with us, because there is always so much of a peer pressure, there's a social media competition, we are always in a hurry. Everything should come like this on a platter and we should all be so successful. So with that in mind, how can we imbibe the patience that you have been doing, some personal tools to do that, or some messages to tell this young crowd that all of us have a journey,
Yes.
and everyone's journey is different. So this is something I would want you to highlight for the young budding
I
doctors.
think have some patience. Everyone is going to have good practice. If you have good patience, At the same time, give importance to your family, plan your pregnancy in time, because the biological clock is not going to wait for you. So plan everything, and initially be modest, but slowly things will pick up. And life is long these days. Longevity is almost up to 90 years. Most of the people that I'm seeing are living up to 90. So up to 70, I don't see that anybody is going to go down. So you have got lot of time. So please have some patience, and slowly your practice will come up. And practice, have some, even in your busy life, give some time to yourself also, like playing some sports, or doing yoga or Zumba, or whatever you young girls are doing, your gym or whatever you like, but do something, at least give half an hour to yourself, and just have patience, it will come. As long as initially you may not be able to afford lavish things, but slowly within 3 years it will come. So don't really worry, it will come, but have patience.
And now this is from a third person view, when I know all the 3 kids and I have actually seen them work independently as well. And I can vouch on that they have never took on to the advantage of being Dr. Asha Bakshi's children. They have actually earned that place in the society. And I have worked most closely with Dhawal, and I have seen wonderful endoscopic skills. So it's like now the parents and the children are complementing each other with their own core set of values, and that's how the legacy is going forward.
Yes.
So, ma'am, it was such a heartwarming conversation. I mean, full of so many honest stories, values, very practical lessons, which we often forget in day-to-day life. And if today, to this young audience, it's not the audience who's only trying to become a doctor. Somebody's trying to start a new setup, somebody's trying to be an entrepreneur, and somebody's actually trying to be a leader like you. So what is your one mantra, or what is your one take-home message to this generation outside of the medicine, how to create your name and your legacy, not just the family, but beyond it, into the world that you are trying to enter into?
Be a good human being, have patience, be sincere, be honest, be ethical, and be smart at the same time.
Very, very wisely said. I think all of you need to take those words of wisdom. They are not easily something available, but once you take it, please practice it, because you literally have these living legends. And I mean, I'm truly honored to host you for this particular podcast, ma'am. And for all our listeners over there, stay tuned. We are going to have much more voices, much more insights, and really inspiring stories from the people who have been shaping up this beautiful world of reproductive medicine in India. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Going back to 1992, I frustrate my wife and my staff because they want to get digitized, and I said, no way. I love my card, I love my pen, and I'm going to keep it. And sometimes I believe modern medicine has stopped listening to women. So I have this mug of coffee which is always listened on my table, and it's got this thing written on it. It says, please don't confuse your Google search with my medical degree. All right? It's the best job in the world, but it needs more than 100%.